Hey everyone, and welcome to another Explainer. Today, we are jumping right into a seriously fascinating intersection. We're bridging the wild, weird world of pop culture fungal myths with some absolutely cutting-edge neurobiology. We are talking about cordyceps. You might recognize it from video games, or maybe you've seen it hanging out in the supplement aisle at the grocery store. But today, we're going to figure out exactly what it's doing inside the human brain.
Right off the bat, we've got to address the elephant in the room. I mean, we've all seen The Last of Us and that terrifying zombie ant parasite, right? And then, on the completely opposite end of the spectrum, you've probably heard folks like Joe Rogan raving about how cordyceps gives athletes this sort of magical fifth gear of physical endurance. So, you have to ask, could a fungus famous for either mind-controlling insects or hyping up endurance athletes actually hold the key to treating incredibly complex brain disorders like seizures and Tourette's?
Let's dive right into this and separate fact from fiction. The whole fungal fiction, that Ophiocordyceps unilateralis zombie ant pathogen, is biologically impossible in humans. Basically, our mammalian internal body heat is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, which completely exceeds the thermal tolerance this fungus needs to survive. So no, it literally cannot hijack your brain. Actually, for centuries, traditional Chinese medicine has utilized safe variations of this fungus as a restorative adaptogen to treat fatigue and system degradation.
But if you go looking for it today, you're going to see two main types. First, there's the Cis4 extract, which is a standardized, often fermented synthetic analog. And look, that one is great for general metabolic adaptation. It gives you that fifth gear of aerobic endurance we just mentioned. But Cordyceps militaris is a totally distinct cultivated species, and it yields significantly higher concentrations of a very specific molecule called cordycepin. And let me tell you, it's this cordycepin that is the true star of our biological journey today, because it's capable of targeted central nervous system neuromodulation.
Section 1. The brain's biological brake, seizures, and ATP.
Okay, think of the human brain like a high-performance engine that occasionally misfires. That's essentially what a seizure is. It's an electrical hyperexcitability, and it's driven by a massive excess of an excitatory neurotransmitter called glutamate, which rapidly burns through all your cellular energy. So how does Cordyceps militaris actually help with this? Well, it all comes down to a molecular disguise. You see, cordycepin is structurally almost identical to adenosine, which is the core backbone of ATP, your body's primary cellular energy currency. And because it's such a perfect mimic, cordycepin effortlessly crosses the blood-brain barrier. It basically sneaks right past the guards and begins acting as a powerful neuromodulator directly inside your brain.
Once it's inside, this elegant multi-step defense system kicks in. Step 1. Cordycepin binds directly to the brain's A1 adenosine receptors. Step 2. This induces what biologists call membrane hyperpolarization. In plain English, it applies a physical biological brake, making it incredibly hard for your neurons to misfire. Step 3. It significantly decreases the presynaptic release of glutamate. Remember, that's the excitatory chemicals sparking those electrical storms in the first place. And finally, step 4. It directly recharges your mitochondrial ATP. So it literally stops the storm in its tracks and then immediately recharges the cellular batteries that were just drained by the hyperexcitability.
Section 2. Taming the dopamine drive. Ticks and Tourette's.
Shifting gears from the electrical storms of seizures to the basal ganglia, we find this fascinating biological tug-of-war behind conditions like Tourette syndrome and vocal tics. Basically, adenosine A2A and dopamine D2 receptors share a tightly linked antagonistic relationship. Because cordycepin mimics adenosine, it activates those A2A receptors. And here's where the magic happens. When A2A is stimulated, it chemically downregulates the sensitivity of the dopamine D2 receptors. So, by dampening that dopamine signaling, the actual physical urge and the neurological manifestation of tics are significantly reduced. It effectively turns the volume down on the whole dopamine drive.
But it doesn't just stop there. Anyone familiar with tic disorders knows for a fact that stress makes them exponentially worse. Well, cordyceps actually functions as a potent adrenal adaptogen. It actively clears out excess catecholamines, which are stress hormones like adrenaline and norepinephrine, right out of your bloodstream. It physically calms the exact fight-or-flight responses that trigger and exacerbate tic severity.
Now, I want to pose a really fascinating micro-mystery to you, drawn straight from patient observations in our source material. When dealing with seizures and severe neurological issues, high-fat ketogenic diets are a well-established therapy. But here is the question. Why did meat-based fats, like beef and chicken skin, actively help stop seizures and tics, while dairy fats, like sour cream and cheese, completely failed to move the needle?
Section 3. Fueling the brain's engine. Dietary Synergy.
You see, the fats you eat aren't just empty calories. They're the literal building blocks, the premium fuel for the brain's newly installed biological brakes. Beef and chicken skin provide very specific mitochondrial synergists that perfectly compound the exact ATP-boosting effects of the cordyceps we just talked about. For instance, beef gives you creatine, which acts as a rapid response energy reserve, and L-carnitine, which shuttles fatty acids directly into your mitochondria to be burned for ATP. Then you have these amazing inhibitory amino acids. Taurine from beef activates your brain's calming GABA receptors and regulates calcium, which raises your seizure threshold. And glycine, found abundantly in collagen-rich chicken skin, acts directly as a motor neuron inhibitor, which is absolutely crucial for dampening the physical movements of Tourette's.
To put this into perspective, the human brain is roughly 60% fat by weight. It heavily relies on bioavailable cholesterol and specialized structural lipids from animal fats to maintain something called myelin. Now, if that myelin insulation degrades, your electrical signals leak and misfire, leading to major neurological issues. Meat-based fats provide the exact highly bioavailable materials your body needs to repair that internal wiring.
Furthermore, meat fats are absolutely loaded with specific long-chain fatty acids, like arachidonic acid, or ARA for short. Your brain uses ARA as the primary building block for the endocannabinoid system. It synthesizes anandamide, which scientists often call the bliss molecule. This whole system acts as a massive regulatory network, specifically designed to calm hyperactive synapses. So by eating these specific fats, you are directly fueling the brain's natural anticonvulsant pathways. It's targeted nutrition at its finest.
So let's solve our mystery, right? The dairy disconnect. Why did cheese and sour cream fail so hard here? Well, first off, dairy fat simply lacks the high levels of taurine, carnitine, creatine, and glycine we just discussed. But second, and honestly perhaps more importantly, dairy contains proteins like casein and whey. And for a lot of individuals, these proteins are mildly immunogenic, meaning they trigger a subtle immune response. This creates neuroinflammation, which is a known trigger for both seizures and tics. Essentially, that inflammation completely erases and cancels out any of the neurological benefits the dairy fat might have otherwise provided.
Section 4. The Future of Fungi, Clinical Frontiers.
This incredible synergy between targeted supplements and targeted nutrition is actually moving straight from biohacker theory into rigorous clinical application today, and the ongoing research, it is staggering. In vitro models show cordycepin inhibits glutamate-induced apoptosis, meaning it literally prevents brain cells from dying during the toxic excitatory stress of a seizure. In traumatic brain injury research, it's been shown to preserve the integrity of the blood-brain barrier. In Parkinson's models, it actively protects those crucial dopaminergic neurons from degenerating. And get this, in a recent 2021 to 2022 randomized clinical trial, a fermentation broth of cordyceps significantly improved sleep parameters in patients with primary insomnia. It is proving to be an absolute neuroprotective powerhouse across the board.
Which brings us to a really defining quote from our source material. Cordycepin offers a unique, multi-targeted approach to central nervous system regulation. And honestly, that is exactly what you should take away from this explainer. It's definitely not a single-trick pony. It simultaneously acts as an electrical brake for excitability, a rapid recharger for cellular energy, and a dopamine balancer for motor control.
It completely reframes how we look at the natural world and our own neurology, doesn't it? Which leaves me with one final question for you to chew on. If a humble, widely misunderstood fungus can literally recharge our cellular batteries and specific dietary fats from our dinner plate can optimize our brain's biological wiring, what other incredible medicinal secrets are hiding right now in our daily diet? Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you in the next one.